business. My name is Anthony Sebale, and you're watching The Point, where we look at different issues in the country, especially concerning policy and how we can implement different policies for a sustainable economy in Uganda. Now, the government of Uganda has become cognizant of the fact that science, technology, and innovation are at the heart of the economy of any developing country. And Uganda being one of the developing countries, we have actually taken this very seriously. And a couple of weeks back, the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation organized the Science Week, where we had different exhibitors and innovators show some of their works. And it was such a wonderful thing actually to witness on the Kololo airstrip here in Uganda. Now today I have a very special guest with me here to discuss some of the issues around science, technology and innovation. And it's none other than the minister herself in charge of science, technology and innovation, Dr. Monica Musenero. She's an epidemiologist and a veterinarian doctor, as well as a researcher. And she has worked in several offices advising the president on epidemics, and now currently serving as the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. You're most welcome, Dr. Monica.
Thank you very much, and good evening, our viewers.
Yes, I hope I gave you a worthy introduction, but I know there's more to your name, more than what I just mentioned. But currently tell us about what you're doing at the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me begin by making a small correction. This is the Secretariat for Science, Technology and Innovation at the Office of the President. The Ministry for Science, Technology and Innovation was abolished in June 2021. So this is the Secretariat at the Office of the President, and I'm the Minister in charge
of the Secretariat.
Yes. Yes.
Let's start with the Science Week. You know, the Science Week happened just a few days ago, and a couple of Ugandans were very excited. They were on their toes, matter of fact, waiting for this edition of the Science Week. How did it go, according to your own observations?
Science Week itself is an innovation. When we inherited the activities from science, the former Minister of Science and Technology, there was mention in the history of such a week, but it had very, very few things. And after thinking through and talking to the president and understanding what he wants, we structured this Science Week, which is an annual event which takes place in November and always starts around the 6th to the 10th. 10th is the World Science Day, so it is fixed annually. So we innovated Science Week to be a platform where we shall be showcasing to Ugandans how far we have gone with science, technology and innovation, but also where we are promising to go. So Science Week 2021, we had an exhibition. The Secretariat was barely 4 months. And in that Science Week, the goal was to show how far we have gone. How far we have gone. We wanted to showcase what was in the ecosystem, what our innovators were working on, and the potential that we have. Now, Science Week 2022 was a futuristic Science Week. It was to show Ugandans where we're going and demonstrate the confidence that we know where we are going and what Uganda is likely to look like by bringing out a few pieces which had already reached to a level of satisfaction. We were satisfied with where things were, and if we multiply that most likely will stay like that, or it will grow even better. because Vision 2040, which is Uganda's current strategic document, all these other documents, National Development Plan, the NRA Manifesto, all these strategic plans are drawn from that. But science being what it is, it has to be long term. You have to look at the long term. So this particular science week, we wanted to bring out the promise that science is giving and to show Ugandans what we are doing to make sure that that promise is fulfilled. So you saw such things like the launch of a satellite, which is something many Ugandans, we had been telling them that we are doing a space program. And the space program itself is going to be so big. But the launch of the satellite signaled that we are serious. And we know what we're doing. We are very serious. Then you look at the Ugandan pharmacy, where we exhibited a pharmacy full of Ugandan products. Can you imagine that you'll go to a pharmacy, not just a traditional healer's shop or a small backyard drug shop, but you'll go to a pharmacy on Kampala Road, and it is full of Uganda innovated and manufactured pharmaceuticals. And that our hospitals and our pharmacies are going to be full of Ugandan innovated medicines. That will be a total transformation. And so this Science Week was full, everything was an innovation, including the setup. We had an innovator who innovated the setup. We had innovators who innovated the displays inside. So it was an innovation, and for me, it was a little overwhelming, actually, for me, because it was bigger than I had thought. Because I called them, I gave them the vision, I want Ugandans to believe in their science, technology, and innovation, and the ability to take them to where they desire to go, so that people see that we don't always just talk, but there are things being done, and there is evidence. But when I reached, I used to go when they were setting up. When I reached there on the final day, on Monday, I was a little overwhelmed because I saw what we are capable of doing. And I believe that we can do a lot.
Well, Dr. Monica, there's been a lot of hunger and thirst, especially when it comes to science. People go to school and, they see all the other cool things people from Harvard School are doing, people from Oxford University, and they wonder why we can't incorporate that. And kind of the Science Week brought out the picture that actually we can. And it's been a long-awaited for event. What do you think has taken us this long in the first place to come to such a setting like the Science Week?
Well, they say that everything has its own timing. And timing is not random. Every factor has to come together. The factors, the mindset of the Ugandans themselves, the leadership, all the pieces of the leadership have to come together. And I think really those pieces have now come together. And when they all come together now, we are ready. So this is just the right timing for Uganda. There are so many things which have to come. The thinking is the first piece, because we have had a lot of initiatives, but now the thinking had to come in because there are factors that have stopped many African countries, including Uganda, from developing science. It is not lack of teaching science. We are teaching science. We have a lot of science being taught at university. It's not lack of the scientists. The scientists are there. It's even not lack of laboratories. Many people always talk about laboratories, and it's not even lack of money, because the money is there. So the final ingredient which has come in is the thinking. The strategic vision, to really help the president translate his passion, translate his vision, and put it on the ground. And I think at the moment he has the right team. It's not just me. I provide that team leadership, but I have here very innovative, very dedicated team. So we have the right team now in the steering wheel. And we will, of course, still require many, many Ugandans. But I see actually a lot of activation now. People, you go, you talk to them. Like I spend a day at every university. I take out a day and go to a university. I spend a day with them. And then I talk to all the staff, the management, the administration, the academic staff. And when you talk to them, it doesn't take long for them. This is what we needed. They had everything they had, but this structuring and bringing together all these pieces now to function is what was waiting to happen, and that's what has happened.
Yes. Now, Doctor, looking at the ingredients now of the Science Week, we did see innovations in the medical world. We did see vaccines.
We call that pathogen economy.
Yes, about pathogens. Then we did also have innovations in the electric car manufacturing.
Yes,
industry.
that is the mobility.
Mobility. And I want to first of all, with the pathogenic side. Why the pathogenic side? We understand, yes, we've been into the COVID-19 pandemic. Now Ebola is around. And so many probably pandemics are going to occur probably in the near future. But why now? Why do you think it's very important for us to actually venture into such a science?
Actually, the question I would ask is, why did we wait for so long? Uganda, we sometimes ask in the public health, we always joke that this country is gifted by nature, including pathogens. Uganda is one of... You mean
pathogens, you're telling them as gifts?
Yeah, we are gifted by nature, including pathogens. Now, God meant that these pathogens will become a raw material for us. Unfortunately, we did not recognize it. So we saw the fear side of it. Uganda, we have over 200 pathogens that other nations have worked on and created drugs against and built whole economies around that. They have created vaccines for them. They have created preventive, protective gear. But for us, we just looked to one side. Oh, we have a problem of yellow fever. Who in the world is making yellow fever vaccine? So that we buy. And we've been buying forever. And people come here, they do the research, they carry the things, they develop. You know, when you're investing in a vaccine, it looks like you're expanding. But wait until you get one and begin harvesting. You're just harvesting. Up to now, all vaccines, there's somebody who owns it. Whenever they administer it to a child in my village, that person is paid. So we only looked, it is a very, very big economy. I think over 7 trillion. Is it $1.7 trillion globally? And Uganda, which is the source, we have so many pathogens named after even this country, but many of them were identified here. But we have never thought on the other side. Yes, pathogens are bad, but they occur everywhere. If a disease is in America, America has a vaccine or a treatment against it. But if a disease is in Uganda, Uganda looks to buy. So I keep wondering, I mean, all of us, we keep wondering, why didn't we wake up? But now, thank God, and this is the flip side. Now, COVID was a big problem. COVID brought a lot of things and disrupted a lot of things. But in terms of science, there is a positive side to COVID. It gave us that wake up quip. You know, when we were younger, mommy would try to wake us up to go and dig. But you know, it's very cold. You don't want to go out. So you would always go back. When she beats you, you get up a little bit. But then, if she comes and really gives you, you wake up and say, no, I can no longer go back to sleep. And I think COVID gave that to us. Not just us, but as I have moved in the different African countries, we have realized that we are the country that is often talked about as laden with disease. We have diseases that have been here with us, like malaria, but we have not focused on solutions for it. We have just been waiting for others to do the solutions, and then we buy. And healthcare is one of the biggest costs to every country. Buying medicines to keep your people healthy, the equipment for diagnostics, it's a very, very expensive. And of course, we'll never be like we are only using ours, but let's at least contribute and also have something that we can. So COVID is what activated the president. I remember he called me and he told me, go and find scientists and start working on these things. He even gave me a list of some of the scientists he knew, because I had not been in the country for a while, especially in the science field. I had been outside. So I started from there. And through that COVID, then there was the presidential initiative, and we worked through that. We started to, it was a courageous step, you know. It was, those things had never been done here. So we had to innovate from zero. How do I find scientists who can contribute into this? So I started by building a team to think together with, and they have been doing some work with vaccines for other people, for other countries, but not bringing together all this knowledge for our own vaccine. And then we started looking for materials, looking for partners who can support us in terms of technology transfer, knowledge, and it was not easy, but we have made progress, serious progress. Really, if we continue like this, Uganda is going to be at a different trajectory.
Doctor, you've worked on several projects, especially with Ebola, in other
the systems in place, they had the ingredients in place. Now, for countries like Uganda, we started by identifying the scientists. But if you never start, you will not start. If you never start, you will never start. And first of all, we didn't know how long will this disease go. The projection was that it is going to cycle around for 5 years. It seems it will, because it is still coming up here and there, but it may not stay like the other Spanish flus and all that, because now people can develop tools easily. So what we want to achieve for Uganda is the pre-cooking. Have things pre-cooked, such that when something comes, you just finish. So in Uganda, in the previous Ebola epidemics, we did not have even an Ebola virus stored in Uganda, which we can use because the virus is the raw material. So we didn't look at like we will ever want to use these things. They were taken out, they were carried out. Most of these viruses used to develop this, they come from Africa. Although the vaccines are not developed in Africa and the drugs are not yet developed in Africa.
Even diagnosis, I think, just came
even
recently.
The diagnostics. So we didn't have that. So some of the things we have started doing is to make sure we have samples. And the Ministry of Health has done a very, very wonderful thing. In this Ebola, now we have the raw material to start with. Then two, you need the research teams. Now we have very good, there's only one thing we are lacking, that is what we call the level 4 laboratory, which we hope to put up. It's a very high level, high security. When you're working with dangerous pathogens like Ebola, for you to work with them, you need a level 4 lab. For COVID, we could work in level 2 and level 3. But for Ebola, we need a level 4 lab. But the president has already issued a directive, and we are working out the plan to make sure that we build a level 4 laboratory. So, but now we have started with the quick ingredients. We have started like diagnostics. We should be able to have our own diagnostics for Ebola. We'll start working on the vaccines, the research. First, the basic research, because you have to develop your own. You have to develop your own. You can't just duplicate other people's. And for like Zaire, Ebola, Zaire, it doesn't have a substantive vaccine. The Sudan, this is Sudan. The Sudan doesn't have. The Zaire is what has, because it is the one which was in West Africa, the ones which used to come here, but these ones, Bundibujo, some of the strains they don't have, and apparently the vaccines don't cross-protect. So our research teams are now beginning, because now the mood is that when we have a pathogen, we work on it. And when we see, and we are not only waiting for epidemics, even these, like malaria now, we are working on something ourselves, because we never thought that we could, but also we didn't have a system. And then the equipment, you know, it was very miserable during COVID, you know. We had the money, but we couldn't buy the things we need. Many of the manufacturers will tell you that we don't sell to that market. You want a certain piece of equipment, but you were not structured in a system of buying that piece of equipment. Reagents, and these are some of the things that delayed our vaccines coming out. You need a reagent. You need some supplies, unique supplies to science. And then the supply system, like we had one chemical we just needed 100 mils. The president had to come in, then they told us they cannot put it on a plane. There was no packaging system to bring it here. It travels in other continents, but bringing it to Africa. So, but now we have built some of those things, even some of these chemicals. We are working down to start producing some of those chemicals here ourselves. So that we can now begin to build this pathogen industry. Public health is critical, and any nation which cannot assure your citizens of primary protection, like happened during COVID, you know, we just noticed we don't have masks for our healthcare workers. Then we're not talking about masks for the public. We are talking about masks for healthcare workers. This we call the K95, or even these surgical masks. Protective equipment, every country kept theirs. No, we don't have enough to supply. No, we don't have enough to supply, you know. And when you try to order, they tell you, you'll get 3 months. Now, if you have a case of COVID, it will be criminal to send a healthcare worker to attend to that person. It will be criminal for you to leave the patient unattended to. what do you do as a nation? We found ourselves at a very, very vulnerable state. And the president said, this is enough. We are going to move. Whatever comes now, like now, Ebola. You haven't heard anybody talking about shortage of PPE because we manufacture the PPEs here. You don't hear so much about shortage of sanitizers and what. Because even when you don't supply your entire, when you manufacture,
SMART24, driving business.